Welcome to the Zentangle Project Pack series. My name is Martha.
And I'm Molly.
Hi, Molly. This lesson is part of Project Pack number 14. The theme of this project pack is all about featuring the artists within all of us and embracing the importance of creativity. In honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, we thought we would create a special, a real keepsake for people to honor that artists within them that they need to pay attention to every day.
Right, and really the importance of creativity in our everyday lives. We often push it aside for our jobs, for our families, but it's interesting when you find out how important it is when it's missing. And so
Exactly.
For a lot of people, our creative sides sort of go dormant, or they kind of go away for a while. And I think it's important for us, whether they've been gone for a few days or they've been gone for a few years or a few decades, to sort of dig back to the child within a lot of us, and that idea of all of us having a creative expression. And there's no right way for that to be. And in fact, I think in Zentangle we learn that it's important to highlight the unique creative expression that we all have. And we love seeing how different everybody tangles. We love, love, love it. It comes in all shapes and sizes and all different languages across the world and ages and all different things, and they're all welcome, and we love you all, and we invite you to join us. All of you artists out there, whether you know you're one yet or not, and
They're about to decide.
and we're excited to sort of illuminate that in this particular Project Pack series.
Yeah, so we have this great book that we've designed, and within the book you'll see that there are quotes from famous artists from long ago, from modern day, and which one of them touches you will be interesting to find out.
Right, so we will be working with the materials found in the Project Pack number 14 envelopes. These project packs are available from some of our certified Zentangle teachers and from Zentangle.com. If you do not have a project pack with you when you're watching this video, we encourage you to follow along with whatever materials you might have at home. So if you don't have these nifty little booklets, please find a nice piece of paper or whatever it is you have, and make do with what you have. You might have to accommodate to the lesson, but that's cool too. You might end up discovering something. We always recommend watching our introductory video first, and the rest of the videos in this series can be viewed in any order. You ready to go, Martha?
I'm ready.
Alrighty, let's rock and roll. So I've already kind of dumped out my tools from this project pack, and I am going to be working inside this this beautiful little mini journal. And I'm going to be using probably most of these materials, 2 different black microns, a 10 and a PN, and then a fun little green metallic jelly roll, and also this gray jelly roll, which I'm having a blast with. There's a whole series of these gray tones, really, really fun pens. And then also a graphite pencil and a tortillon. So Martha and I have already picked a page that we want to work with, and if you have one of these booklets, you may have already looked through and found some pages that you're eager to get started with. I'm just sort of trying to open this up and get it a little flat first. And so the quote on this page, original artwork done by our mother, Maria Thomas, by the way. And this particular page reads, "Fill your paper with the breathings of your heart." I just love this quote. It makes me think about when I draw how much of me comes out of my pen, and the same probably happens for you, but you don't realize it, or you haven't realized it yet. But we really do put our heart and soul into everything that we draw, and to me that's something to cherish. And so we picked this page, and it has a pre-strung Zendala on here, and I thought this was a great way to get started and kind of use maybe some familiar tangles, maybe some that are not that familiar, and play with this cool palette we have with these grays and greens and blacks, and see where we go. So I'm gonna get us started here, and I'm gonna be using both of my black pens. And I'm going to be using a Tangle that happens to be one of my favorites, and it's a pretty simple one. It's one of the few Tangles that's name describes it, and it's called striping. And I think you'll find too that it's a bold Tangle that adds quite a statement to a composition. Here we go. So I'm going to be starting with my Micron PN black. And these pens are great. They have a plastic nib, so they're a little bit more durable, but you can still get a nice fine line with them. So I'm going to be working in this space right here to get started, and you can just allow yourself to focus in on that space. And before we start tangling, I like to allow myself a moment for the first step in the Zentangle method, and that's gratitude and appreciation. Sometimes that means sort of appreciating the materials you have in front of you. Perhaps it's a moment where you shut your eyes and breathe, and you allow yourself to maybe ponder on something you're grateful for, the time, the opportunity, the ability, whatever it is in your world right now. So I'm going to get started here, and I have picked this one space here at the top, almost as if you were looking at the page upright. It's the one that's at 12 o'clock. So I've turned my tile or my book slightly to make it more comfortable for me, but I am going to create a series of stripes filling this section. So you may watch me first and then follow along. So I like to create these stripes with a subtle curve. And then I like to cap the ends with a subtle curve as well, as almost they like sort of wrap around the edge of the shape. And you may have the same number of stripes as me, or you might have more or less, and that's totally fine too. They don't have to be exactly the same. Taking your time and breathing. All right, so I have my stripes outlined here. I am going to actually swap and start using this Micron 10. And this is actually a new size that Sakura just put out in the last year or so. And it's a nice fat micron. And I'm going to use this to help fill in these stripes a little faster. If some people like to use the PN for the whole thing, and you can do that too. We have a little seam here that we're going up against in this first one, and I might come back in with my PN to get in right in that seam area if that's important to you. And I'm just taking my time. You may put a sparkle in here if that's something you like to do, and that means just leaving a little uncolored in the middle. I like to fill mine all the way, but either way can work. All right. So basic, but really has a nice bold look to it. So I'm just going back in with my Micron PN and kind of trying to get in between the seam here. All right. So I'm going to start one more so you get the hang of it, and then we're going to basically fill the, if this were a clock, the 12, 3, 6, and 9. So we're going to be doing every other one. So I'm going to turn my tile here. Again, I'm going to skip this space, and I'm going to do another set of stripings on this one. And I'm not like really concerned with them being exactly the same, so I'm just going to eyeball stripes. I'm not gonna like have to worry about each one having the same amount of stripes. I'm just gonna go ahead, create stripes on another one. They might be slightly different. The stripes certainly don't have to fall in exactly the same places. And again, I'm going to use my Micron 10 to fill these in. And then I'm going to go and do the other two, going every other space. All right, so I've filled in my other stripings. I'm going to go back in on this last one to try to get a little bit in the seams, kind of do any touch-ups.
I love how they roll over the edges like that.
I know.
It's just a neat effect. It gives it that three-dimensional cone shape.
I did want to note that the fat pen puts out more ink, and therefore it has a little bit more dry time. I actually smudged mine a little bit. It's not going to be a big deal because I'm going to continue drawing over it. And we don't try to worry about that too much, because usually you end up tangling over things and adding love, and it's a little bit of part of our no mistakes philosophy. So do be cognizant of the wet pen, but if you accidentally smudge something, it actually just becomes part of your piece. So no worries there. So I am going to hand this off to Martha now. Once you get all your striping done, let it breathe for a little bit, and we're going to start on another tangle. Very beautiful. I think I love how this boldness kind of anchors the piece. And like Molly was saying, you know, simple strokes that kind of get your artistic juices flowing and get inspired. It really like weighs a composition too. Yeah. Like once you put in something that's more detailed, I really love the way striping sort of like anchors it. Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to use this beautiful silky gray jelly roll moonlight pen for my sections here, and I'm going to be working in the 4 kind of cone shapes that are left in this center sort of star shape. So I'm going to do a tangle called Samson. Write that down. And Samson is named for a dear friend of the Zentangle family who's no longer with us, and she came up with this simple tangle, but it's actually quite lovely and organic, and quite contrast to this bold and sort of geometric striping. So I thought it'd be fun to put that in here. And there's certainly many ways to execute this tangle, but I'm going to start with just a simple division of this cone shape here by drawing a line down the middle. I actually love Samson because it's one of the few tangles where we encourage you to have the shakier lines. Oh, yes. Right. So grab that cup of coffee and off you go with Samson. So I just made a cross here in this shape. And so I'm going to focus on this line segment right here. And essentially Samson is just a beautiful leaf shape. And so this center line here is going to the center stem. And then we're going to put a few veins on the stem like this. And then this is the fun part. And this is with a very shaky and non-planned path. I'm going to sort of aura around these little shapes of these veins right here. And then down the other side, just as wiggly as you can possibly get. And there's this beautiful sort of leafy lettuce shape.
So I'll do it again here, just a couple of quick veins to go around. And then a shaky line to surround it. You don't really want to spend a lot of time thinking about it. You just kind of want to trust that your beautiful lines,
It's sort of like a little dance,
will come together. And I come together to a point at the top, and then back to the bottom. And then one more time. There. So what I'm going to do next is I want to kind of set this apart from the rest of the space. And I'm going to do that by auraing the outside of the lines we just created. So now, where you went from a very sort of spontaneous line, you're now going to be focused and try to duplicate that by drawing an aura. So I'm going to go in and out. You see that? And just up here a little bit. And then what I want to do is fill in the space that's left to the edge of my string. It's going to get a little close here and there, but basically we want to add that aura line so you can really set apart that leafy shape. And obviously it doesn't have to be a perfect aura. But again, you're going to want to have that to set off the leaf shape. And this gel pen, the ink flows beautifully the lighter the touch you have on your pen. And I'm turning my little booklet each time so I can see what I'm doing and my hand is comfortable. So now I'm working on this last section here. Working in fragments like we are, you kind of get into a nice rhythm, moving from one to the next and enjoying this whole creative process. As we were saying earlier, when you have a prompt or a little bit of a gentle nudge to just take the time to create something, the benefits are immeasurable, really. And then you have this special little book to kind of coax you along the way. Don't forget to breathe. I find myself having to remember that. And one little rule that I try to follow is whenever I'm turning my tile, or in this case, my little booklet, I want to remember to take a nice deep breath. There. So we'll revisit those in a little bit with some graphite once we get all of our ink down. So I'm going to focus now on these outer sort of diamond shapes, and we're going to fill each one with the same fragment, if you will. We would love for you to follow along with us, but if you have something that you are dying to put in these spaces, then by all means. So I'm going to start just with the same gray gel pen. I'm going to put a dot in the center And I'm going to, in essence, do a Bales fragment. So if you have done that tangle before, I'm going to divide this diamond shape with 4 sort of seeds, if you will. And then I'm going to aura on each side of each seed. And I'm actually going to do that one more time. And it becomes a bit of a stretch there. You see, I'm retracing my lines where they all meet, and I'm having it meet in the corner as well. So these aura lines are sort of ballooning outwards. Like that. And then what we're left with are these little triangular spaces. And I'm going to draw one more aura and fill it in with ink. And I kind of like to round that little edge, much like Molly did on these stripes. Just that little rounding kind of gives the illusion of wrapping around the line. I have to get a little cozy in here. There. And then in this original seed shape that we drew, I'm just going to force, that sounds terrible, I'm going to gently put some orbs inside, nestled right in there like peas in a pod. Maybe you want to ink in any little corners that are left. And again, this Jelly Roll pen does leave a nice amount of ink behind, so just be careful when you're turning your booklet and where you rest your hand as you're tangling. So I start with a big one in the middle, and then the rest I just squeeze into the shape that's there. Even the simplest of strokes I try to do so deliberate and carefully. There. So we're going to repeat that all the way around. I'll start you off on another one. We just put a dot in the center and then start out with those Bales needle shapes. And I'm adapting to this diamond shape. It's not a perfect diamond, so I want to fit in here. I'm not going to force it. There, you can already see how this is really coming together. You'll notice that the jelly roll goes right over the black ink of the micron. So it's a good little trick if you ever need to, I don't know, resculpt an unintended line. Orbs is such a forgiving term, right? It doesn't have to be a circle or an oval, but just a round shape that adapts to wherever you need it to fit. So I'm going to put a cap on this gray pen for now, and I thought I would pick up this very fun sparkly green metallic pen and give it a little test run. And you know, we've just created all these open orb spaces, and I thought it would be fun to maybe just add a little sparkle, a little jewel sparkle. So inside each one of these, I'm just going to put a little bit of green gel ink. You really just have to have a little touch of the nib to the paper, and it lets out just enough ink. I'm not really filling in the whole orb. I'm trying to leave some space around each one so you have that white showing that helps define it, like little green jewels. So we see this coming together here. I totally love how this is looking. Just that little subtle green touch, starting to dress everything up. And now Molly's going to come in and do something fun here in the middle.
All right, I am just loving the way this is progressing. I think I'm even more excited about this combination with the black and the grays and the green than I anticipated liking. It's like,
yeah, it's a beautiful combination.
Yeah, it's really pretty, and the subtleties of the gray is
very
exciting.
Classy.
I think so. So let's finish off with this center here. I'm going to pick up my jelly roll again, and I'm going to do a variation of tipple, pretty simple. So I'm going to start off in the center here. Again, we're working over this little crease, so just work around it. Don't let it bother you too much. I am going to start smushing some orbs together. Tipple is all about orbs. And they can vary in size a little bit, but you really want them to smush right up to one another. And I like to kind of ink in the interstices between. And if you get to the edge, you can put a half of an orb. Feel free to turn your tile as you work. Again, they don't have to be perfect. And in fact, I think sometimes when they have a little character, it gives it some energy. Again, just adding a little ink here and there to fill in those little tiny spaces. And really paying attention to each orb, not rushing. Certainly not a race. Always sort of thinking that these pens do stay wet for a minute or two, so pay attention to that as you're drawing. All right, so I have all my orbs put in. It looks pretty cool as is, and if you kind of are appreciating it the way it is, then I suggest to leave it that way. There's no reason you have to go in exact the same direction as us here. Or perhaps you try it one way first and then you go back and try a similar tile and doing it a different way later. I am now going to take my green jelly roll and do something really similar to what Martha did over here to kind of repeat the color and sort of the pattern. And I'm simply going to add some of this luscious green ink inside of these orbs. I'm sort of carefully paying attention not to go all the way to the edges because I'm appreciating that little bit of white. So I'm just kind of adding a nice pile of gel ink right in the center, and then deliberately not going to the edges. And I like that sort of uncolored in area. It adds to the pattern. Sometimes this gel ink just kind of, you just have to sort of touch it to the paper and it sort of drops on there. Definitely stays wet for a minute, so just avoid touching it. Nice. Oh, I love the way that looks. So fun. Really pretty. So we're gonna make sure we leave that center to dry for a little bit. And if you need to let the whole thing dry before you start shading it, then that's totally fine. I am going to pick up my graphite pencil now and start adding a little bit of shades of graphite to the striping. I love shading this tangle. It's so fun. So I'm going to start with the first one we put down. So I'm going to turn my page upside down to do that. Again, avoiding the center because mine's definitely still wet. And I'm going to add some graphite right to the sides here. I like to point my pencil towards the edge I'm working. Put a nice sort of dark line right near the edge, a little softer towards the outsides. Towards the inside. Just kind of dark on the edge and then easing up a little bit as I go towards the middle. And we're gonna do more with that as we work it with the tortillon. Now I'm gonna do the other side. Again, using the point of my pencil as a guide, but kind of on its side so that I get a softer line. And I'm just putting down a little bit because we're gonna pull this in with the tortillon in a second here. Now I'm gonna take my tortillon and I'm going to very carefully, softly sort of buff that graphite towards the middle. So working with the graphite's kind of cool because you always have an opportunity to add a little more if you need to. So if you want to, be a little conservative to begin with and then go back, that's fine. I like a nice heavy graphite, but oh, look how special that looks. Just love it. You can always go back and sort of darken the edge if you need to. Make it even more intense. The trick is to leave this center part not shaded so you get that highlight. It's fun to see the difference. So when you're kind of looking at it, you can see how much the shading affects it. So cool. So I'm going to go ahead and shade the other three of these. Oh my gosh, that looks so beautiful.
I know, it's amazing how much it comes out.
Pops off the page.
Excited.
Absolutely love it. So I am going to, with this beautiful graphite, just add some extra, dimension to these other sections. Very simple, but yet effective. I am going to just, in between these seeds, if you will, just adding some graphite in that kind of cross section where they meet, and just gently spreading it with my tortillon. Each one kind of makes them look like they're tufted. Tufted?
Yeah, oh, that actually,
Very simple,
it's
but
a simple shading technique, but it actually really has a lot of
yeah.
emphasis.
And a reminder, if you have a very sharp pencil, just see how I'm working it on its side so we don't get any pointy graphite pieces in our journal here. We just get nice soft graphite to smooth out. And you'll find your own rhythm of adding graphite, whether you
do all of your graphite and then you go back and use your tortillon, or if you do one fragment at a time. I kind of like to see the progress as we go. Oops.
The Samson sort of makes it feel like a magical snowflake.
Yeah, I guess so. No two are alike. Anytime you shade, you know, feel free to kind of go through the whole thing, and then, you know, you'll hold your tile or your artwork at arm's length, and you might say, I think I just need a little bit more, or a little bit more blending, or what it is. You know, you don't have to be finished until you want to be finished. And anytime you're shading, you always have to remember to not cover all of your white space, because then the shading will mean nothing. You have to have the perspective, the contrast, in order for it to have its effect.
And what's fun about this template is you can pick different tangles to put in here too. Like you might say, oh, I really like the striping, but I'm gonna add something different in the, you know, the little tufted areas, or, you know, really take your time and think about alternatives, or maybe trying it somewhere else a different way.
So I'm actually gonna do a very similar approach with the Samson, just where those big stems come together. I'm going to add some graphite and spread it down the veins here, making sure to leave those white frilly leaves open and white. Kind of has a little bit of a lettuce look, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Beautiful cosmic salad.
Cosmic salad?
Yeah.
I'll have one of those.
For sure. There. What do you think? Is your jelly roll dried in the middle?
I think we're about ready to go, yeah.
All right, why don't you put that finishing touch up?
All right, so Martha and I were just making sure that the ink was dry enough to lay down the graphite on, because you don't want to sort of scratch it. But I'm making sure to use the side of my graphite, and I actually really love shading over Jelly Roll. And if you're interested in some of those effects, I recommend, we did a project back last winter that was all about Jelly Rolls. I think it's Project Pack
10 or
8.
11? Oh,
8.
It's that far back?
Yeah, I think it's Project Pack 8. And we used some really funky Jelly Rolls and just had a bunch of fun with it. And it was like unexpected. And I just loved taking sort of a tool that isn't like two tools that aren't usually mixed together, and playing with them. And
also the Apprentice project pack.
Right, we
Really
did.
fun Jelly Roll.
Lots of Jelly Roll fun. So I'm just working around the edges of this center part here, just carefully. I'm putting a pretty, a heavy bit of graphite using the side of my pencil. I don't want to scratch these beautiful Jelly Roll. I just want to put graphite on top of it. And then I'm going to take my tortillon and just soften it a little bit. It does cool things on top of the Jelly Rolls. And then again, make sure you leave that center part with no graphite, because you want that almost highlight. Well, that's pretty cool, Miss Martha.
Beautiful. Imagine opening this book tomorrow after you've finished this and seeing how amazing this is.
It's really beautiful.
I love that. I love it when you kind of walk away from something and then you come back and you can really appreciate the work you put in.
And I don't know about you, but I feel like we both put a little bit of heart down on
We
this.
did.
Yeah.
We totally did.
Yeah, so I encourage you all to fill your paper with the breathings of your heart.
Oh, have a wonderful day, everyone.
Have a good time.